Hi. So, for my project, I decided to work with DSLR cameras and learn how to use them and its settings it has to offer. And I chose this mainly because I have never worked with a DSLR camera before, so I thought it would be interesting to learn how. So, for my first week of my plan, I used the resources I found to learn the material that I wanted to learn. And so the resources I found that worked the most were very visual, and most of them were videos because then they showed you like how a setting changed the photo. And but there were some articles that I did find, but all the articles I found did have still visuals. So visuals were a main thing that I looked for in resources. And also, a main thing in resources that you have to look out for is to make sure they break it down enough for like beginners, because sometimes the person in the video didn't break it down a lot, and so like they didn't like define like certain terms, and so you didn't really get the idea of what that certain like setting was. So had to watch out for that. And then for the rest of week 1, I just made sure I knew where certain settings were on the camera. And then for week 2, I worked with the settings and got more of an idea of what changed what. And then for the rest of the second week, I planned for my thing I was supposed to make for the ending of the project, which I decided that I wanted to make a montage. And so then for the third week, I finished planning and then shot the scenes I wanted, like film and then the photos. Also in week 3, I messed with film a bit more and yeah. And then for week 4, I edited things together. So the first thing I learned was about the lenses, which is very important because without them, you can't take any like shots, photos, and it's not like a point and shoot camera. And there's two types. There's a macro lens and a wide lens. A macro lens is used for like a photo with a subject, while a wide is used for like a landscape. And then the next settings I learned were shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, which all kind of pertain to like light in a way. So for shutter speed, it is the amount of time that light is exposed to your light sensor. And it's represented as a fraction. So the bigger the fraction, the more time light has to get in, and smaller the fraction, the less time. And so with a bigger fraction, normally your picture will be brighter. Like in the left photo, the picture is brighter and it has a bigger fraction than the right photo. But in the right photo, the light is more controlled and it's darker, since light had less time to be exposed in the sensor. But also you have to watch out, because if you set it to a big fraction and you're in like a brighter setting, you might overexpose your photo, which is not good. Okay, so another setting is aperture, or it's also known as f-stop, which that's why there's an F before the number on your settings. And this is also represented as a fraction, even though it doesn't show it. And so the bigger the number, the smaller the fraction will be. And the smaller the fraction, the less of an opening it will have, but the bigger the fraction, it'll have a bigger opening. And this also kind of controls light, because like in the left picture shown, more light gets a chance to come in that bigger opening with the smaller fraction, while the right one, it doesn't have as big of an opening, so less light has a chance to get in, so it's a more darker photo. So another setting I learned is ISO. And this is the sensitivity of your light sensor, and it's good not to use this as much for like controlling your light, even though it is there, because the higher number you set it on, the more of a chance it will mess with like your colors. So like in the photos I have on her blue shirt, on the left photo, that's more of what I was seeing with my eyes, but whereas the right photo has a higher ISO and it's less of the color I was seeing. And so that's why it's good to set your ISO at the lowest possible setting you can. So the next thing I learned about was white balance. And this deals with like your type of lights. So like cloudy, daylight, or fluorescent, that kind of thing. And so there's a couple options for this. You can either go to like the preset options, which you can like make your photo look more cloudy or in daylight, or you can go to your customized white balance, which I think is the best thing, because then it's personalized for your situation or picture. And how you set it is you first have to take a picture of like a white card, or like I used a tissue and it worked, so just a white object, and then you go to custom white balance, and then you select your photo with that white object. Once you select that, it should automatically select your white balance in the best possible option for your setting. And this is what the customized white balance, this is what I did in the photos below. So the left photo has, like, especially when you look at the wood, it's more like a yellow orangish light, while the one on the right is when I set the white balance with the customizing thing, and it's more of what I was seeing and more like natural wood color instead of having that orange in it. For another aspect of my project, I decided to learn about the video part of the camera too, and I learned about like movements in film and also angles, which the angles proportion I could kind of put it like what I learned along with photography too. But for the movements, you can use it to create emotion or just visual effects to make it look nicer or bigger than it actually is. So for one of the things I learned was creating emotion with movements. So like, for example, one of them I learned was when you zoom in on your subject, it can create a more intimate scene. And then also for like just a visual effect and to make your film like seem bigger than the shot actually is like a reveal shot. So it's when you go behind something and slide over to reveal something, your subject. And like if you just do a still shot, like it's okay, but like it's kind of plain. So when you slide from behind something, it just makes the shot seem bigger. So for my project, like lighting is like a very, very important element, because without lighting, you can't really have a good quality photo. So that's a main element you have to pay attention to. Then another thing is paying attention to what you're seeing and what the camera sees, messing with the settings there so that your camera captures what you're seeing and what you want it to see. And also, movement, don't it's not a good thing to put it randomly, like in shots, just to make it look cool. It's good to think about it before, and what you want it to show, or what you want it to what emotions you want attached to it. And then also for your ISO, it's best not to put it on auto, because if you put it on auto, sometimes your camera will pick a higher number than what you would pick, and then that's when you get into the issue with it changing colors and not being natural. And then for lenses, there's a setting on your lens. It will say MF and AF, and MF is manual focus and AF is autofocus. And if your camera is having a hard time picking up of what you want it to focus on, make sure to put it on auto so you get the right focus you want. And then also, while you're learning about the camera and the settings, it's good to take pictures of one place or thing and then just change one setting at a time so you can see what changes from each change of setting in that one position. Because if you get a bunch of different photos with different changes in setting, it's kind of hard to see what affects what. So that's been my project, what I've been doing for 4 weeks. I hope you enjoyed this and possibly learned something from this, maybe. Hopefully. But all I can say now is bye.